who is present. Myself, Jonathan Smith, GM Attorney, Ella Scotti, and Kate Sandretto. If you'll please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody. Any objections, I should say, to the prior month's minutes? Nope. No? All right. No. I skipped citizens' concern, but I didn't see any here. I took for granted. My concern on behalf of a citizen. All right. Sewer credits tab. If you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have in front of you the sewer credits year to date. Since the last time, there was just one. It was a sump pump float stuck, and that caused the water-powered backup sump pump to run for an extended period of time, and actually we made an adjustment for 3 months of bills because that's how long that this episode had lasted. And that was $449, brings year-to-date $4,309. And while I'm up here, do you want me to do the other sewer credit?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
I know exactly when that happened. It's down my street.
Oh, okay. Well, yes, it was last year, and we told her it would be best for her to wait till a year's consumption after the event. So that time period just came to an end. Next is will be a motion to approve a sewer adjustment for 332 East 2nd. Dollar amount is $1,369.33. This resident had 2 leaks in her crawl space that were repaired by a plumber, and I handed out the plumber's bill that has a description of the repair. Because it was in the crawl space and would not have gone to the sanitary sewer, we didn't do a dye test because we do dye test if it's over $500, but this wouldn't have gone into the sanitary sewer, or no chance for it to. So that would have to be approved or recommended here and then approved by motion at the next full council meeting.
On these, I don't think I asked this question before, but on instances like these, are they like investigated, or like how do we determine if someone's, I guess, telling the truth, or they're say they were, I don't know.
Yes.
You know.
Well, in this case, we don't whether it's over 1,000 or under 1,000. If it's under 1,000, we don't pay it unless they provide documentation that it's been repaired. They might tell us what happened, but until it's repaired, we don't move forward with payment. Okay. And so this plumber's bill, pretty detailed on the explanation, and we did go out to this resident's house and tried to shut off her water. She said something's going on. We tried to shut it off, and well, no, we had been to the house for that reason. That wasn't tied up with this water leak, but we had been to the house.
Okay. What was that threshold again? Would you say $500?
If it's over 500, we do a dye test, and if it's over 1,000, it has to come here. Okay. Yes.
The dye test is only done if it's in the sump pump area, is that correct? Yes. Yeah, that's where the leak is from.
Yes, yes. Where we would really have to say, did that go down the sanitary or down the storm?
All right. Any objections to passing this on to council? Move forward.
Councilman, so normally, there's no legislation that goes with this. You just kind of have to remember this next season.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
But I can start putting, like I did a reminder for the last city council for the president and council to remind everybody about the committee as a whole. I could put a reminder in there about the sewer credit just under your thing, just so that it's there as like a catch-your eye.
One of the place in the minutes, actually. Could you just do that up to that we'd like to, while during my report, I'd like to bring a motion at the same time.
That's also a good way to do it.
So what I used to do is, as soon as I would get my meeting minutes, I would write down underneath that paragraph, make motion, big letters, and underline and circle it and everything else.
Yeah, that, I know I'll forget. Because we're talking two weeks really, right?
We are,
Yeah,
because
so-
we get a bonus week next week, which has a meeting in it anyway.
All right, it's like we're on to the 3/4 ton truck.
Yes, so utilities has, you all approved hiring a new position of field operations superintendent for the public utilities, Department of Public Utilities. And this vehicle is for that individual because they have to be able to go out to sites and all over the city. It's a GMC Sierra truck. The deputy for the Department of Public Utilities did get pricing, and this was the least expensive. The other two trucks were over $50,000, and we would have then had to have done state pricing or gone for bid on the vehicle. We are having trouble getting state pricing right now in the current situation. We're having trouble getting places that even have vehicles that they can provide to us at state pricing. So this was our best option and our least expensive option.
It looks like buying it locally.
Yes, and we are buying it locally.
See. Is there, I actually didn't check, I guess, the details of this yet. Are there, like, what type of bed? Is it just a regular pickup truck bed, or will it be toolboxes on it, or, you know that?
There wouldn't be toolboxes on this because it's a supervisory position, so he won't pick up a wrench and fix things. He'll be driving to sites and supervising the workers,
Okay.
the crew members who are actually making repairs.
Why the two split lines in the budget?
I don't know why this is coming from two different spots in the budget.
Is it because part of it's coming from water, part of it's coming from sewer?
Yes, it should be 50/50.
Yeah,
What
it's
is-
Okay.
we're out.
Yes,
That's all I wanted.
yeah.
Thank you. I just wrote it up, but didn't know.
And if I can ask, I know that, and Alice, I'll look at you on this one, for the truck itself, I know our planning and zoning was going out, they were going with the electric vehicles or a similar type of a situation. Is there a reason we're going with the pickup, or is there, versus doing the electric vehicles that are similar with the planning and zoning? Do you know if the administration's?
It would be awkward for supervisor.
I think the answer for that is that right now this is what was available to be able to get
Yeah, I don't-
a vehicle.
I don't know what the wait time would be on electric vehicles.
Okay, I'm just curious, because I know that our planning and zoning was moving to that type of,
And they went with hybrids in the end because they
Okay.
couldn't find electric vehicles that either didn't catch on fire or weren't priced at Tesla prices.
yeah,
So they ended up with hybrids.
okay.
With the same, I think they were able to do the same hybrids that like law enforcement does for the city of Perrysburg without all the bells and whistles. And so that was easier because we already know that vehicle, we already know how to bid that vehicle and where to get that vehicle from.
Okay. And I know that the wastewater treatment plant needs a new truck here at some point, so hopefully we keep that in mind on the upcoming budget. I'm sure all of you saw that truck when we did the tour. It needs a new one.
They do. On this particular truck too, it says a double cab long. Is that a 4-door then? Or is that, we know that? I know there's like, I think there's a double cab, and for some reason I think there's another term for it.
It
Like
says
an extended
4-door
cab or
and a
dual
cab.
cab.
Crew cab?
I don't know the answer, I'm sorry.
Okay.
But we can find out for you.
Like, and kind of what I'm getting at is, so in the case where this truck may not be used for a supervisor at some point in the future, is this like an item that you could turn over into another, like to, I guess, have another use for this vehicle within that department, right?
Certainly.
Service truck
And
or
we do
something,
pass
yeah.
down vehicles to the greatest extent we can.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess I'm not always so, I'm a firm believer in, you know, with the ability to resell some of these vehicles. I know there's like typically, I'll say the market's been different now, but in a 3-year time span and a certain amount of mileage and usage, you're gonna get the most out of them, you know, I was saying a resale value. So I hope we get a schedule together, not, I shouldn't say it doesn't pertain to this to the department itself, but just, I mentioned that numerous times in regards to the city. So we don't end up with like 2003, 20-year-old vehicles that we're hanging on to still just, you know,
Yeah.
we're spending more money, not just discomfort, but, you know, repairs and everything else. Okay, so this sounds like we can use it for other uses if need be.
Here's a picture of a double cab, so it does have 4 doors.
It does, okay. And that's probably something, because I'm trying to picture a supervisor why we would need four doors, but if there's a possibility it may be used for something else too, I think.
Take crews out, whatever.
Anyone else have any questions on that? No objections, move that on to city council, no objections.
Okay, the next thing is the Rule 25 change that we brought to you at your last meeting, and we're actually going to ask to pull that. We've had a discussion internally, and one of the goals was to try and make it easier to find individuals who don't pay their utility bills and who leave. But we can only put liens on property for occupied owner properties. We have to go out after them civilly or criminally otherwise. So eliminating renters from the city from being able to have contracts doesn't really solve that, because the property owner still isn't the occupier of the property, so it didn't really solve our problem. What we ultimately decided is that there are internal forms that have to be filled out when people apply for utility accounts with the city of Perrysburg, and one of them is a landlord has to fill out a form that says, I as the landlord understand that this bill will be in my lessee's name, but if they don't pay the bill, I'm still responsible for the bill. And we are updating that form to include more information about the landlord and to be required every time the lessee changes for the landlord's property. So we used to just say a landlord owns a house and they start renting it in 1980. We used to let them fill this form out that said, I'm going to be a landlord and I'm going to lease this house out, and every time somebody rents the house, they can have the contract. Now we're just going to require that every time that property turns over to somebody new, the landlord has to sign the document and say, I understand I am responsible for any unpaid utility bills for this specific lessee. And that will really solve the problem more easily than eliminating Rule 25 the way we were going to.
My only concern is having them come back every time they rent something out.
Well, they can fill it out and send it in.
They don't have to show up in person?
Show up in person, no.
Okay, because I know that, because I was going to bring that up later, is in regards to how that process works right now to even get your water started, where there's requirements for
So the only people who have to show up in person are people who would live outside the city of Perrysburg and are having utilities provided to them by the city of Perrysburg. And that is because they have to sign an annexation agreement. And even then, it's not required, but it is generally helpful, because what happens is the annexation agreement requires a copy of the deed. It requires that every person who is on the deed sign the annexation agreement and that it be notarized, and that the legal description from the deed be transferred properly to the annexation agreement. What Utilities has experienced is that, yes, this can be done not in their office, but often what happens is when that form comes to them, it's wrong. All the signatures aren't there that are needed, the legal description is improper, and it is actually easier for the outside city customer to come in, fill out the form, the utilities clerks or notaries, get it notarized there, and then it's just done properly. But there is no requirement if you live inside the city of Perrysburg that you come in to have a utility account open.
Okay. I guess it would be easier in a sense for them to come in, but knowing
They're not required, but if they get it wrong, they're going to have to do it again or come in and it gets done wrong a lot.
I understand. I just know that with the hours of the utility,
Yes.
it's not necessarily a typical working hour.
Right, right. So it is not a requirement. They can be sent the form, they can have the form, but there is the understanding that if the form's done wrong.
Yeah. So they don't really have to come in.
No.
It's just, okay.
Yes, yes. It used to be that prior to COVID, the policy was that the notarization had to be done in the utilities department, and we've had discussion about the fact that a notary is a notary. It doesn't matter who's doing it. And so that policy changed with COVID and has now continued as a change in policy.
Okay. Okay. I'm just looking through the answers that you sent over. I just want to So I guess with the deed, is that something that, everything's pretty much online anymore, is that something that just be pulled up from the recorder's office?
No, they
or
have to
website?
provide the deed because the recording is often so far behind.
Okay,
And often what has happened is that they've just closed. They have their brand new deed, that won't be online anywhere.
no.
And that deed has legal description and shows us who's on the property to be able to.
And the other question I have regarding the LLCs, I'm thinking about how we tend to work with them on the bond side. We just usually typically on the bond, that we've got, just have to have a managing member sign. Doesn't have to be everyone that's on a owner of the LLC, but just the managing
I
member of
believe
the
that would be
LLC.
acceptable for this as well, yes.
Okay, I just want to clear it, because I thought I
Yeah.
saw something that every owner of the LLC had to sign, or am I
I don't
misremembering that?
believe, no, I think we said every person who owns the property, but the LLC would be different, because the LLC is is fictionally the person itself.
Mhm.
So it's one LLC that owns the property, and yes, a board member or a managing member could sign for that LLC.
Okay, so it's just one person?
Yes, because it's the LLC that we
Yeah,
would
yeah.
go after.
Okay, I just wanted that clarification as well, so.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's it for my question on that stuff.
All right, so in regards to the amendment, we don't have a copy of that
We're not doing
today, we're
anything.
just-
We don't
just-
want to do anything.
Okay,
We just want
gotcha.
to take it back.
Okay. All right.
But we had it on a month ago, so we didn't want you all to go, what happened with Rule 25?
Okay. Thank you for your attention. Appreciate
Yes.
that.
Any other questions about that?
Jane, do you have any? No? All right, discussion on stormwater. So I want to kind of keep rolling with this. I know we kind of left off last month talking about, I know, I kind of want to get back into storm barrels again too, because I think Lauren just did a fantastic job, like with that class, and it was full, if I remember right, wasn't it, in the class that she did?
I haven't talked to her since, but
Okay.
how
And I
many,
know she-
20-some people, or what do you think it was?
I'm sorry?
Were you there, oh, Kevin, were you there?
No, I wasn't.
Oh,
No, I
okay,
just heard
so-
about it.
okay.
So.
I don't know how many people were there.
Okay.
I'll find out.
So, yeah, so that's kind of a separate issue. I guess I'll kind of just talk in regards to that, because that's kind of what I had in my mind with that. So, I know last time we talked about the grant for the sump pumps, things of that nature. And I know in the particular neighborhood I'm thinking about, inside the boundaries here south of Grassy Creek, they were dealing with standing water, right, surface water, and then we're also dealing with the issue of stormwater entering the sanitary sewer, correct?
The possibilities there.
Possibility,
Yes.
right? So I mean, I know it's going to take citizen engagement. I guess I'm trying to think cost savings, how we can start to move something forward in that regard. Do you think like a rain barrel, like sort of initiative would, if we get residents engaged, would that help? I mean, if we got enough people on board with this thing and maybe turn that into a grant program, I guess I have a problem with the sump pump thing. We mentioned, we tell people that, or we've said it's illegal to pump water or storm water into the sanitary sewer, right? So I guess that project, man, be a little candid here, but it's like, to me, it reminds me of like, would you tell a drug dealer, like, we know you're selling drugs, but just bring everything in and no harm will be done with it to you, or we won't put you in jail. I feel like it's almost like, I feel like people might not want to participate in it. I don't know if anybody has recently, or what the participation rate is with that, but.
I believe that, I know there's one active grant application going on now. I think there were about 5 last year. It's not really high numbers, but we do need to reinvigorate the public information related to those grants. We've got a new PIO officer, as you know, and so we'll work with her to sort of pump up the information on that grant. The thinking has been to offer a carrot. We're not using the stick yet, but the day for the stick is probably coming. So this is all carrot to entice people to go ahead and fix the water intrusion on their property and just be that much further ahead.
If I can ask, you talk about the stick.
Mm-hmm.
How do you even enforce a stick if it's a sump pump?
Quite easy.
We would have
Go
to,
around and do dye tests.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how will we do that? We'd have to,
And then if they have, the dye test shows it, then they have to fix it, or the EPA is gonna force us to do this. We're not gonna have a choice.
well, if there comes a constitutional amendment that comes into play, because the only way to do the dye test is you have to get access into the person's
Yeah.
home.
I guess you'll have to get subpoenas and stuff.
But that's what I mean, it's not an easy process. It may be easy to do the dye test, but you're gonna have to tell everyone, well, we need access to your home, to your sump pumps in order to do this. And there's gonna be people that are gonna say, well, good luck, this is my property, you can come on my home. And you're not gonna be going in there to do this. And so there's gonna be other costs
You
associated.
know what'll probably happen is they'll consider that agreement that you have an issue, and then they'll go from there. Like, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, if you could restate it, please.
By refusing to let the person on your
Oh.
property, you're acknowledging that there's a potential problem. That's why you're not letting them on, so you'll be put on the list that you would have a problem until you let them on and prove otherwise.
Unless you want to exercise your right as a
When
American
you
citizen.
can't, here's the deal, you can't. You're absolutely right. But then it's the city's right to say, well, you're refusing us to, because you have an issue. Because if you didn't have an issue, you would let us on and do this.
Well, not necessarily, someone may not want someone
Then
from the
prove us
government coming in
wrong.
because they
Then
have
prove us
something.
wrong.
So what I could say is, well, I don't want you to come into my car and search my car to an officer and have nothing in there, but because they said no, that means I'm guilty with having.
But you know what? They could keep you there and go get a search warrant.
I mean, I don't want to get to the point either where we're turning our citizens into criminals, just, without being able, I know we,
And it's not a criminal thing, it's a civil thing.
yeah, I
The thing
know,
is,
but
If we don't make this known to them, that this is what's gonna happen, then we're gonna be forced into doing that.
I think we have a hard time getting information out to people and conveying it anyway.
Yeah.
They don't read mail. I'm one of those people, like, a lot of stuff goes in the garbage. I don't read a lot of it. Let's
Well, my whole
engage.
point is it's not going to be an easy process to go through this. And that's why I really believe it's important to get the message out there, even if it's going door to door, talking with everyone about the grant program and this within the boundaries, because there is a constitutional issue with trying to go into the homes. They can refuse it, and
Well, they can, and they can get subpoenas and force that in, and then what are you gonna do?
well, they can get subpoenas, but there would still be a long fight to even get into there.
You know, and I would.
Yeah, because I think at that point, you're still talking a potential criminal act, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I just would rather not get to that. I think,
I agree, but what are you gonna do? Because we are gonna be penalized. We
what we're trying to do right now is
We are
programs.
gonna pay the ultimate price, the city.
The only other option is just cap them off and everyone
Exactly.
will have to get backed up, and that would be, again, another bigger issue.
Well, but here's the thing. They have an alternative right now they need to take.
Well, and that's what my point was, we need to find ways to get that out. And
Sure.
we have the PO, we have the stormwater technician now. I mean, to go out and let people know that this is available, I think that would be, I mean, I hate to say you go in to knock the doors, but you're right, when people get the bills.
yeah.
And
Unless it's
actually-
something that catches their eye, they're just gonna throw away the other pieces of paper.
There's other ways they could do this on pump tests without coming in the house. Couldn't they? For the-
It would be labor intensive, but we could put the sewer camera in the main line and go lateral by lateral and see if it's pumping out
Yep.
Yeah, that's
at a
another cost.
pumping
that
rate
we-
or just draining
But it
out.
would
If we
get
get the
around,
grant program going,
Yeah.
to really out.
we wouldn't have to need the homeowner's approval.
I think, well, too, we're making an assumption that all that water, or the significant impact on the system is coming from sump pumps, right?
In the old
Well,
section,
it could be foundation drains that run by gravity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a sump pump, so it really isn't. I don't think even in that instance, we push it that far, so that's really gonna solve the problem.
And I-
We
A lot of
get
older
everyone-
pipes too, and
Yeah.
I and everything else.
yeah, I know at ODOT, foundation drains are not allowed, won't be run in the sewer. Are they allowed?
They're not allowed now, but back in the 1950s up until the 1980s.
I bet you in the boundaries,
Yeah,
a third to a half of
Yeah.
houses have that.
yeah. They would have That would
I
have
know-
been combined sewers, they would have been tied into
Yep.
the sanitary, yes.
And basement drains too. Not necessarily sump pumps, or sometimes the basements drain.
Just
How do
Mark's
you
drain.
fix the foundation issue out?
It's very expensive.
Yeah.
You have to, mine would have to put a pump in to capture that water, run a storm line, and drain it into a storm sewer. It's pretty expensive to intercept that water and get it out where it's supposed to go instead of taking it out of where it isn't supposed to go.
Do you think, and again, I'm kind of going back to the rain barrel thing, do you think like a plan or an incentive to use rain barrels or like to, I guess, I don't know, I guess in my head, I'm almost thinking what's the maximum on the sub pump grant right now?
$8,000 for a $10,000 project. It's an 80% grant.
Okay,
And then if there isn't a storm sewer stub out in the street for that property, then we go up to $12,000 on a $15,000 maximum.
I'm just trying to think of over the course of so many years, what $8,000, just pull my calculator real quick.
We were looking that up. What is the cost of a rain barrel kit?
Probably around $50.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it's not that.
no. But that's a guess. I need to verify
Yeah.
that too.
And how is the relining project going? Are we doing anything with the sanitary sewers right now, or?
We don't have any going right now. We've talked to the city engineer, and he has capability to design that and put bid specs together for us. I don't know if he has time allotted to do that right now, but he's willing to help us on that.
So in the event, like, I guess, I just kind of ran some numbers here with the rain barrels. Is there a potential, like if a resident wanted to go out, if we were able to create a program, they wanted to go out and do this on their own, to put rain barrels in at their, say their downspouts, are we able to give them like a credit on their bill? Or would it be easier to do a grant to, I guess, because, you know, I know that a lot of those things you would have downspout adjustments, right, cuts and things like that. What's your feeling on that?
Mr. Chairman, either way on that would have to take legislation from council, because we wouldn't have authority to give them credit on their account or give them, we don't have an incentive program for rain barrels to go 50-50 on the cost or something like that. So that would have to be council action.
I guess, just like hypothetically here, I took the $8,000 and I took that and divided that by, $25. If you're gonna get a $25 credit on your bill a month, and then chop that down, that came out to roughly $25 credit would get you through 26 years.
Yeah.
You know, I guess I'm trying to bring an incentive to get people to buy into, to start to eliminate some of the.
It's not a bad idea to do something with the rain barrels, because it keeps the water from getting into the ground and seeping in through I&I or through the drainage systems around the foundations. I mean,
I guess I think of like people's pour downspouts that they're running down the foundations, or overflowing gutters and things like that and then that gets into the sump, and if any are hooked up, it's going to the. I guess that going back to the sub pump thing, that may be going into the sanitary sewer, right, at that point. So I don't know. I don't know if it's just a crazy idea, but I think it's another way to help. You're kind of killing two birds with one stone. You're eliminating potential surface water, potential water that might be going into the sanitary sewer through the sump. And then you're also able to, the residents kind of doubling down, they're able to reuse that water to water, I guess, their garden or whatever else.
Yeah. I would just caution that in a heavy enough rain, that rain barrel is going to fill up in 2 minutes. And
Okay.
then the rest of the water is just gonna keep going.
Running over.
Yeah.
Okay. Do they have, I thought Lauren mentioned that they had something with, like, agreement with like Schitt's Container. Where were they getting the rain barrels from? Do you know?
If, that's likely because they produce that type of product. I'll just find out more information and I can send everyone an email, or send you all an email with those kind of statistics.
Okay. So I guess that's kind of my goal to it. I'd like to potentially see here in the future is, get the information out to the residents, especially in that area, if we can kind of focus on that area for now, and then maybe create an incentive to utilize rain barrels if we can. Maybe come up with best way to do that. Now, in regards, I kind of want to jump over to the remaining, I guess what I have in my mind is stormwater. I obviously didn't sit on this committee when the Grassy Creek, was it the master plan? Is that the way it's worded? So going back to that, is there a reason why council didn't adopt that or anything with that at that time to try to address some of the issues? Other of you know that.
So
There was 2 plans proposed, wasn't there? One's no longer viable.
the reason nothing was actually adopted was because it had to be a negotiation with the Ohio EPA. And so to find out if they were going to even accept one of those options.
Right.
Okay.
If I recall everything correctly, that was the whole reason we went through the plan so we could find some options. We were going to go to the EPA. We were leaning towards one of the lower cost option because it was going to eliminate everything we thought was going to happen. And if I recall correctly, Alice, as soon as we came with that plan, they changed the
Couldn't
rain
design it.
requirement.
I thought they couldn't design it.
Well, no, that was recently, but
Yeah.
initially they said, I think we were looking at, was it 7-year rainfalls, and they wanted 10-year rainfalls.
Well,
I
that
think it was a
is,
6.
yes, the Maple Street Emergency Response SSO is based on and designed around a 10-year storm.
No.
We were looking at a much lower, we were looking at, if I remember right, a 5-year storm for Grassy Creek. And that still was, one of the options was $11 million.
Yeah, that's, I've just been kind of reviewing that again too, I guess. Just spinning around, how can we start or begin to address this problem with what we know, what we have?
What about applying for grants from the infrastructure funds?
Stormwater, for a stormwater program, it would need to tie into improvements in water quality. And I would imagine that there's a way we could be creative.
Because it would be.
Yeah, I think there's
Yeah.
I did kind of look into that a little bit. Alice, you probably know a little bit more about this than I do, but, I noticed there was a grant for the surface water through the EPA. There's a potential grant for surface water, also for water that may be like the mixed sewers, to clean up those things that may be getting into the creek or whatever. And then like what you had mentioned with like clean water as well. I believe there were 3 grants. The only thing I saw with those, Jans, I don't know if they were.
No, I'm talking about the feds.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
talking
Federal
about. Yes.
infrastructure.
The infrastructure.
Yeah, so some of those,
Investment
yeah.
and Jobs Act, yes.
But I know that the EPA actually got some of that money to send out at the state and local levels through that bill, from what, at least
Yes.
through my research.
That would address all 3 of those.
The Infrastructure and Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the IIJA, would all come through Ohio EPA. And for City of Perrysburg, we would qualify for low-interest loans. It does not appear that we would qualify for any grants, except maybe some lead service line. But for more general purpose sanitary sewer fixes or wastewater plant fixes or water system fixes or stormwater, it's going to be low-interest loans.
I noticed, I was surprised, Jane, too, when I looked into that, some of the maximum grant amounts for municipalities were right around like $150,000. And to me, that wouldn't even scratch the surface. Looking through this plan, that's just
That
kind
would
of
pay
like,
for the pipe.
yeah, right, yeah, for a couple fittings at least
Yeah.
in this,
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, I still I want to continue to look at this and try to address that issue if we can.
Are they coming back with it to us with ideas since they couldn't do the one plan?
Yes, yes.
That's what I thought.
They're working on alternatives of what would work in its place.
And
With the EPA, I thought, I remember Bridget, I think said that at our last meeting, she said they were still.
yeah, with that are feasible for us.
Yes.
Monetary wise.
Yes, and we did have a call with Highway EPA in March.
And it's my understanding, Ohio EPA is very understanding about our issues.
They understand the issue, yes, what we're
I
facing.
didn't say they were cooperative, I said they were understanding.
Yes, I would say that's a correct statement,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
having dealt with them.
if we could just get some, I guess, some further ideas, as we move forward with this thing, is, just some maybe things that we can do to just kind of get and continue to push it that way. And I've, even in this plan here, it looks like they had sent out questionnaires to some of the residents,
Yes,
and there was maybe some reluctancy to engage. Some of these things that were, I'm trying to find that graph.
Yeah.
But they didn't really, I guess, buy into like the green infrastructure, which I think last time Jonathan mentioned the like rain gardens, and I know Warren had mentioned that too.
Yes.
Maybe some initiative to, or incentive, I should say, to place something like that in that area to help.
the residents did not seem too anxious to take on rain gardens or green infrastructure, because I believe the concern is the amount of maintenance that they would have to do. And it usually does come down to maintenance, because you want to keep the weeds out, they do have to be tended on a regular basis, otherwise they get overgrown and look unsightly, and residents, and nobody would want that in their front yard.
Our backyard.
Right, or backyard.
Yeah, because going through that plan, that seemed to be, I'd say the complaints from some of the residents that I've gotten were they had the standing water in their backyards, and that seems to be the most difficult challenge in this
Right.
plan, to be able to access or to address the issue back there, because you're talking, you either have to access and you'd put basically a basin in there, right? Or maybe a storage.
Swale.
Yes, a swale to carry the water overland, or, well, I wouldn't recommend an equalization basin, a buried basin in the backyard for common use. I wouldn't, that would take water from more than one property. I wouldn't recommend that.
Okay, I thought that was in, they had mentioned like placing one at, I think, the corner of the properties to.
You have to, you gotta get permission, and you gotta.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I'm getting at, I think to address that particular issue seemed to be the most challenging out of it all, and it's unfortunate that, they don't even have a storm sewer to tie into, right?
Right.
To if they were to do that on their own, to run that water out. Because if you ran it out to the street, on most of those streets, it's just coming right back to the backyard.
Yes.
But it's real, you could always make it go somewhere.
With sufficient money, yes,
Yeah.
with enough money, you could, yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Waste finds the easiest way out.
That's true. I know some of it, you go over there and there's still water in people's yards from, not just today, but, from last rain, which was a week ago or whatever, so. That's kind of all I had. I just want to just express that, I hope we continue to kind of look forward to where we might be able to take this, potentially build that into a budget plan moving forward. Whether we get back with the EPA and they say, hey, these are the things we would be okay with you doing, because I imagine they want to see some sort of progress. Not on that, but with the especially the
Right.
sanitary side,
Right.
right?
Yes.
maybe something that we could do to maybe get something going, show that we are making strides to kind of handle all these things at once, maybe. So. Did you have anything else for me, Alice, for that? I think I kind of.
No, I don't, no, thank you, I don't have anything else.
Thanks.
The only other thing I had, I wanted to bring up, and this might be something to tackle in service, at you, Jan. I don't know if anyone's noticed with the new intersection over on South Boundary and 25. I know that individuals who are looking to take a left turn into, say, Mr. Freeze, are.
First of all, they're not allowed to make a left.
They're not allowed to, that's what and so they notice that they can't. They go down to Twin Brook. I run down Twin Brook all the time. And what I've noticed is residents have put cones in their driveways because they're getting too many people turning around under their property. So one of the questions I'm hoping to ask, and maybe this is something you can relate to Bridget or Rob, is to see if there's a way that we might be able to put a temporary sign to let people know who are going, a way to indicate where the proper turn in to Mr. Freeze is off 25.
Yeah, because they're coming off 20, yeah, and they're turning on and they're finding they can't.
Yeah. Just something to say, Mr. Freeze, entrance further up. Just some way to help with those residents on Twin Brook from having to deal with those issues.
Because you can get in directly off of 25 if you go through the Rockaway parking lot, correct?
Yeah.
There's a next drive up.
This is the next drive down.
So
Instead of
they're turning onto,
They're turning to west-south boundary.
and you want them to cross west-south boundary, go to that driveway,
Yeah.
that's what they should be doing.
That's what they should be doing, and
Okay.
I know that the residents on Twin Brook are experiencing this issue. Says not only do some of them have cones, others are actually parking their cars at the base of their driveway.
Well, and the other part is if they go down, isn't that a cul-de-sac?
It is a cul-de-sac, but how many people really want to keep going, or how many people even know it's a cul-de-sac?
See, now, I'm polite, I would do that, I wouldn't turn around in somebody's
Yeah,
driveway.
so neither would I, but
Okay, so you're looking to see if there's a way we can put signage that says Mr. Freeze entrance down here.
Mr. Freeze or even Marcos, because of that change, a lot of people don't realize it. I know didn't receive any complaints from the neighbors, but
I've seen it just once,
just
most of them are just disregarding it and turning.
yeah, and that happens too, and that creates a whole other safety issue as well.
Well, yeah, I think they should have been a little bit more aggressive on that.
But if we can put some additional signage or even something temporary
I
up
will
there.
ask Bridget and talk to Rob about it, and Brian as well.
Because I've experienced a few times living off of West South Boundary where people will stop and take a left, or they'll stop, look, see they can't take a left, and then keep going. So just something a little more, because it isn't easy to see when you're coming off until you're getting ready to turn, for those who don't do it often.
I do have a question I wanted to bring up, Alice, you might have to answer this. We were coming up with the ditch cleaning schedule, and how is that coming along, and where are they on that?
I appreciate it.
No, because, I'm sorry, to me,
Oh, I appreciate this.
roads, the roads issues, drainage issues causes more road issues than anything else. So you have to be very proactive on your ditch cleaning. For that reason, but also so we don't have any more Fort Meigs issues, so.
Yeah.
And I know, we haven't talked about it yet, and
I appreciate asking.
Kevin probably doesn't even
realize.
realize we do have a ditch cleaning schedule, because you sent those pictures
Yes,
out.
yeah, we kind of just briefly talked about it, but yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, thank you.
So,
Yeah, we looked at that off of White Road. I do need follow-up on that because I don't know if we were gonna clean that in-house or the White Road situation.
Are any of our ditches subscription ditches?
We don't have any in the city. Now, there are some county ditches
That are
within the city
subscription.
boundaries, yes.
And that's why I'm asking.
Oh,
because-
okay.
Because they could be potentially subscription ditches inside the city.
Mhm.
That makes sense. Because if we annexed it and they were subscription ditches, are they automatic city ditches, or are they still just subscription ditches? Do you know
Petition.
They call them petition, in Ottawa,
Yeah.
we call them subscription. The
Oh.
property owners kind of like own the ditch, and it's their job
Yeah.
to keep it clean and maintain, i.e. subscription or petition, if that makes sense.
Okay.
It's because they're supposed to pay for the maintenance of it.
So what you would like at the next meeting is our ditch cleaning schedule?
Yes, can we get that? Was that okay with you guys?
I love that, yeah, it'd be great. Yeah.
And also that question, if you
Yes.
know it, because we're not gonna let you go out easy.
Yes, I
Because you only
understand
have
that.
only, what, 2 more meetings?
3, June, July, August,
Okay.
yes, but who's counting?
Yeah, I bet you.
Yes.
So, yeah.
There are, I can tell you, there are county ditches inside the city.
And yeah, and seeing, and I know some county ditches are really subscription ditches. But whether or not they're in our city limits, I don't know that. Which means that the property owners have to pay for it. I bet you 10 to 1 they wouldn't know that. Because that's not exactly something that you look for on a deed when you buy a lot.
Yeah, I'd love to know what the schedule is,
Mm-hmm.
just to see how we're doing that and how we're rotating that as well.
Because we haven't talked about that in a while.
We really haven't.
Last time Barry was on this committee.
Yeah, and I think Barry asked me here recently too.
Yeah,
So I
so,
appreciate
yeah,
it.
no, because to me, it's, I mean, granted, we live in a great black swamp.
Hopefully those new candidates coming up that we got to, we mentioned that personnel will be for director.
Oh, yeah.
Will be
Come up
interviewed.
with a program.
Shortly too. Hey, Alice, I just want to say thank you and to your team down there at the wastewater treatment plant for, I showed up, I didn't know it was canceled. That was the day we were getting a bunch of rain, it was cold, and so I think it got canceled. Nobody told me, but it was actually, I thought it was a perfect day to be down there, so I got to see that thing in like kind of full go. So thank you, and told Vicki and Ed thank you as well. So that was great to see how that, I didn't know the details like that. It's just fantastic to see how that thing operates. So,
Well,
thanks.
thank you all for
Matt.
making time. I was in the first tour, but I wasn't able to attend the other 2. So I think every council member who wanted to go on a tour was able to.
Matt Hess is a friend of mine,
Oh, really?
small world. He's, never mind, I'm not gonna say it.
Do we have anything else come forward?
That was.
No objections, we'll adjourn.